Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Expertise podcast. I'm your host, Trent Martin, and I hope that today's conversation will expand your knowledge. Today I welcome my cousin, Trent Martin, to the show. Trent has spent the last several years serving the community through his work as a hockey referee, as well as spending time coaching several different minor hockey teams. Throughout the conversation, as Trent shares his stories and his experience, I really enjoyed hearing the lessons that he has learned along the way and the willingness that he had to share from his experiences. I hope that you will enjoy it and learn from his expertise. Welcome, Trent, to the Everyday Expertise podcast. It's really good to have you here.
It's an honor to be here, Wallen.
I'm looking forward to chatting with you today about some of your experiences and some of your everyday expertise. So tell me, what keeps you busy currently?
Currently, I am working at Martin's Family Food Farm and on the apple farm, as many of your previous guests have. So
For sure.
It's a common theme there.
Yep.
Currently working with the shipping part of the industry, and then as well with the packaging products and ordering and inventory control and stuff like that.
Yep. Very
It's
good.
getting busy and really love it, really enjoying work.
That's
I look
awesome.
forward to going to work every day. A lot of good people there, so it's a lot of fun.
That's great. Yeah. And obviously the harvest, and this is one of the busiest packing times. That's still the case that's the way it was when I worked at Martin's 10 years ago. But do you feel that even in your role that this is one of the busiest times of year?
Oh yeah, for sure. This
Yeah.
is definitely the busiest time of the year, but it's also the most fun and
Yeah.
most promising. You see a lot of good things happening, so it's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's great. But that's not what we're going to spend our time talking about here today. So I'm looking forward to talking about your experiences, especially with the game of hockey as an official and some time coaching. So I was curious, what kind of is that looking like right now? Is that happening at all, or is that kind of waiting for normal times again?
So with COVID, it's going on. It's looking a lot differently. I'm presently not currently involved. I'm still registered as an official,
Okay.
registered as a coach, but I'm currently not with a team or reffing right now.
Okay.
Just due to the fact that there's a lot of restrictions in place and
Yeah.
a couple of different opportunities didn't happen like I wanted them to happen.
Okay.
But it's definitely different. Kids are still getting on the ice, so it's good to see. But hopefully things get back to the old normal,
Yeah.
and so I can go back to the old hockey.
Yeah,
that we're used to.
So you said kids are on the ice. Are like minor hockey games happening? Or are
No,
they not?
minor hockey games are not happening. It's
Okay.
more just practices happening. A lot of skill sessions going on, but it's
Okay.
just no body contact or anything like that. It's
Okay.
just a way for kids to do something going on, but it's the most safe it can be, I guess.
Yeah, to limit like how much they're even close to each other. and that
Exactly,
kind of
yeah.
thing,
So there's only allowed to be one parent in the arena and per child, and only so many skaters on the ice at one time. So
Okay.
only so many people on the bench, etc. like that.
Yeah. So is there even like any job for officials, referees, and linesmen at this point?
And there would be some stuff going on that's unsanctioned. Unsanctioned hockey is hockey that's not promoted by Hockey Canada.
Okay.
Sanctioned hockey is stuff promoted by Hockey Canada. So
Got you.
if unsanctioned falls under like the regional, I guess.
Like the different regions within Ontario. and
Yeah,
that
for
kind
sure.
of thing.
There's
Yeah.
different New York region, PO region, and each of those have different restrictions in
Okay.
place. So if they fall under those criteria, then they're allowed to play. But
Okay.
most likely they're just doing practices right now.
Yeah, I got you. So is there recreational things allowed? Like can a group rent an ice rink for an hour or two or not?
Yeah, there's definitely beer hockey going on.
Yeah.
It's just different restrictions and different arenas, townships have different rules and
Okay.
regulations in place. Well, there's
Yeah.
some of that normalcy going on, but it's not like it used to be for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. No, hopefully that gets back to, like you said, back to the old normal before long, so that you can get back into that. But I'm still looking forward to talk about what your experience has been and what you've learned. Before that, though, a little bit more about you. Is there any hobbies or interests that you have outside of what we're going to talk about here today, or outside of your work that you'd like to share?
I really got into like fitness, so I love working out. So I tend to go to the gym.
Uh-huh.
It's a garage gym. I tend to go about 5:45 every morning and
Wow.
get a good workout in and get a good day. Makes me feel better for the day.
Yeah.
Gets me going, gets my energy up, and I feel like there's a lot of benefits of that. So
Yeah, that's great.
my brother Anthony got me into it, and a little competition at work got me into it too.
Okay.
So been going for the last 8 months, kind of since COVID hit, and
Okay.
that's something that I don't think it's going to be ending anytime soon. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I had Anthony on a couple months ago to talk about his experiences with fitness and things like that. So that's great that you guys can work out together and learn from each other like that. Yeah, I totally forget what I was going to say about that further. But anyway, any other interests that you wanted to share or anything like that?
I really interested in hockey and
Mm-hmm.
like love hockey, love being involved, love seeing kids being active. So times are different right now, but I definitely don't think this is going to go on forever and get back to normal and get back and being directly involved again for sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. Very good. Yeah. So with that, and you said that that you love hockey. Was that inspired by your younger years as you were growing up? What was kind of your exposure? How'd you get exposure to sports or the game of hockey?
It's like really a weird story for sure. Like all the way up through high school, was not involved in community sports at all. Like,
Right.
Not at all. But always kind of was intrigued by it a little bit. Like always thought it'd be pretty cool to play on sports teams and stuff like that. But never really had the opportunity. So I kind of got done high school, and I feel like there's always got to be like something besides work that a person's doing or enjoying to do, right?
Yep.
Like, and I'm like, I needed to find something to do. Had this friend at church who was involved with reffing minor hockey.
Okay.
And I was always intrigued about it, and I was trying to think back the last few days, like, how did that conversation go? And I don't remember actually having a conversation like how to sign up. I just remember just asking him questions about what is it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that one day, it was back in August 2014 maybe.
Okay.
And just sitting down on the computer, Googling how to become a referee.
Okay.
And all at once realizing that it's a possibility, sent an email out and realized the next month they're having this referee clinic in St. Jacobs.
Okay.
Which they haven't had since.
Okay.
And
so it was kind of like a introductory.
Yeah, so it's introductory referee, how they sign up. So it's an all-day clinic thing. They go over the rule book, go over positioning and stuff like that. So signed up for that clinic, and I kind of jumped right into it and didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
Okay, yeah, got you. So there's like, are there requirements for training or anything like that, or can you just get signed up and you learn on the job? Or
there's no really requirements. I think probably the biggest requirement would be that you know how to skate.
Yeah.
I would say that I was not a really good skater.
Okay.
But I knew how to skate, so I signed up, did that, and then realize like as you get into it, they give you introductory thing, and then they just pretty much throw you in a game, and then you just kind of slowly develop and learn and proceed. So you jump in as a level 1 or level 1 official.
So you would be starting with younger kids.
Younger kids, lower level hockey, so house league hockey and
so ones that aren't as fast or
not
as good skaters themselves.
Exactly, like it's very low level hockey, and so like you can't do a lot of wrong in it. But it's just the way you jump in. So you get the 7:00 8-year-old girls game. 7:00 Saturday morning, 8:00 girls games. That it's tough, but to go to, but like that's how you learn. And
gotcha. Yeah. So you start with kind of those worst times and the slowest games, and
where your hands are frozen because the arena is so cold. But you want to work your way up, so you have to put in your time.
Yeah, very good. So that's you did that clinic, you signed up for that, but from there it just came from experience, and like you said, you learned on the job. Is that kind of how it went?
So it came into that clinic, and then so I signed up as an 18-year-old, and most people sign up when they're 16.
Okay.
So because I signed up as an 18, I was already a level 2 official.
Oh,
just
okay.
because of my age. And so that allowed me to do higher level hockey a little bit compared to like a 16-year-old.
Okay.
But you sign up, and in that clinic, there was 5 of us from the Elmira Township that
Okay.
was signing
Yeah.
up to be a referee, and they're still a referee. And most of those are pretty good friends of mine
Oh,
now.
that's neat. Yeah.
So we kind of grew together. So he signed up, and then that first game happened about a month later, and just showed up to the arena. Did not know what to expect. I didn't really know what kind of equipment I needed because I didn't really go over that in the
Oh,
clinic.
really? Okay.
And put it on and stepped on the ice, and I don't remember much of that game.
Okay.
But
So would you have had a partner? Or
yeah, I had a
yeah.
partner. There's
Okay.
been 2 of us. I don't remember who my partner was.
Okay.
But survived and went on to continue to ref, I guess.
Yeah. So you would have been familiar with the game of hockey and the rules for the most part before
I would have
you?
been familiar with the game of hockey. I was not familiar with how intense parents are, or how
Yeah.
how much is involved with minor hockey. Like it's
Yeah, and
a whole new world out there if you never grew up in it.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing a little more about what some of your experiences have been with that, and yeah, it's more than I suppose officiating a game is more than just taking care of the rules on the ice and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that as we go on. So you kept at it? Is that kind of how you developed, and just by doing it, is that kind of how you continue to get better?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been 8 years now, so you slowly get through more and more games. So I think at the time, early on years, like I would want to do as many games as possible. Like
Okay, yeah.
it's just that thing. But now it's turned into more. I'm not gonna make a career out of refereeing or anything like that. It's more of
Yeah.
a social thing for me.
Okay.
Like, ref with good friends, I'm gonna go enjoy it. But yeah, you continue getting better, and then there's supervisors that are constantly grading you. You get
Okay.
watched 2 or 3 times a year, and then they give you evaluations about
Oh,
what
okay.
are you doing better, how you can improve. And as the years go on, the evaluations get a little bit harder. They look for different things,
Mm-hmm.
but you're just constantly trying to make yourself better by doing small things.
Okay, yep. So so you said there's evaluations. Have you done other things to develop yourself? Like, are there, I don't know, classes or courses or anything that you can take?
So
or-
if I would be like really intense with like trying to make a career out of it, you would be like looking into power skating and doing stuff like that.
oh, like yeah, training your skating and
exactly.
stuff like that.
And because that's mainly what it is. What determines a good and bad referee is essentially game management, which is only comes with it doing
Right,
game
yeah.
experience. Like you can't really read a book and like that's how you're gonna game management.
Yeah,
But it's doing hundreds of games and you get better and better.
yeah, the experience that comes with that, yeah. Yeah. So what kind of level are you at now, or what kind of games are you officiating now?
So after I got level 2, then there's a 2 certified, where it's essentially you have to be watched and evaluated.
Okay.
And if they pass you, you're allowed to do lining of any minor hockey games.
Okay, so tell me here, what are the types
difference?
of officials?
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a referee and then there's a linesman.
Yeah.
For like under 14, most often it's just a 2-man official game.
Okay.
So you have 2 referees. They act like a linesman and a referee at the same time.
Right.
The older you get, there's a 3-man system, which is
Yeah.
a 1 referee, 2 linesmen. So the referee's only the ones doing the penalty calls,
Okay.
and then the linesmen are the ones that are watching for the offside and icings, stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And then higher up to the minor midget, major midget, which is now the U16, U18 levels.
Okay.
No matter A to AAA, there's 4-man system.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
there's 2 referees, 2 linesmen. So the referees are obviously looking for penalty calls, game management, and the linesmen are doing offsides and icings, etc. like that.
Okay.
So A and below, backtrack. So level 3. So I'm currently now at a level 3. So I can referee and linesman all the way up to U18 minor hockey. Most centers, if you do AAA, they would like to see you be level 4 to referee
Okay.
the higher level of hockey for the U18, U16. So that's the next thing. How do you get high levels? Well, level 2 is just evaluated and supervised. To become a level 3, you have to actually write an exam
Oh, really?
and do 2 more evaluations to
Okay.
become a level 3. So I did that.
Nice.
And for level 4, you have to write another exam, go to a clinic, and do two evaluations, become a level 4.
Wow.
The pass rate I think is like 95 to become a level 4 and a 90 for level 3.
Like you have to get that?
Yeah, so it's just a
Okay.
rules question based exam.
Okay. So
So-
you're like tested like on the extent of the rule book.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
for your game situations, what would you do in this
Oh, that
situation?
too.
How
Okay,
would you
yeah.
handle? What penalties would you give?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So essentially, they're trying to make you very knowledgeable.
Right.
There's a big difference between a level 3 and a level 4 official, just like there's a big difference between a level 3 and a level 2 official.
Okay.
There's definitely the better officials are the level 4s.
Yeah.
Better. So, and people depends what township or center you're from. The supervisors are a little bit harder. Depends what center you come from
Okay.
to give you the exam. I feel like in the one I grew up in, Amira, they're pretty lenient in some ways.
Okay.
So if you put in the work, they'll reward you by sending you to the clinic.
Okay. Yeah.
Opportunity to write the exam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you said that you're level 3 now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So does that mean you do referee like even under 18?
Yeah, so I've refereed under 18A. I have
Okay.
not refereed under 18 AAA.
That AAA are like that's
Those
highest
are the
level?
guys at the highest level of
Okay.
minor hockey. Most of those guys who have the opportunity to get drafted,
Okay.
OHL, or opportunity to go play in the junior league somewhere.
Yep.
So there's a very different level of hockey. In our center, Elmira, we only have A hockey,
Okay.
so we don't even have AAA. So in order to go to AAA, I would have to go to Waterloo the ref,
Oh,
which
I
is
see.
a different
Okay.
region.
Yeah.
So I've just chosen to stay with
So
Elmira.
are you doing all your reffing in that area?
In the Elmira area, yep.
Okay.
And then in playoff times, you have the opportunity to go to playoff games in other centers because
Okay.
they don't want hometown officials. They bring in other
okay.
town officials.
Interesting,
So that's
yeah.
how you get rewarded. Like they obviously choose the best officials to
Yeah.
go on to playoff games and stuff like that.
Have you
So
ever done that?
I've done a few times. Yeah,
Nice,
it's
yeah.
a thrilling, exciting event.
Yeah. Yeah. So do the players get like is the game pretty fast at those like once you're reffing 16, 17-year-old kids like
Yeah, I mean it depends with two teams. Like each
Okay.
center is dominant. Like it can be fast. It can be really choppy. I think it depends every year. I think at the AAA level, it's more consistently fast.
yeah.
So it's not very much. There's a big difference between AAA and A. That's for sure.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So you haven't you haven't done a lot of that, you said, of the like AAA.
I've only done a couple AAA ones when
Okay.
I've gone to playoff games and
Okay.
done that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So yeah, and we'll get more into anything that you want to share about that in a little bit. But tell me a little bit about your coaching experience and how that's been.
So I became a ref and I was enjoying being minor hockey, and then had an opportunity to be asked to become on the bench. As it was a parent group. It was a parent group that didn't had non-parent coaches.
Okay. Yep.
So they wanted, and all these non-parent coaches were a little bit older, so they asked me because I was a little bit younger if I would be helping out and be easier to relate to the kids.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I was like, oh, sure, I'll sign up, and did that. And so I signed up and just became like a manager, whatever. So essentially
Okay.
I was just on the bench, but didn't do a lot. But I learned from it. And from
Yeah.
that, I was like really intrigued and really enjoyed this. Like it's a new side that I never saw about. But like, what do I have to offer? Like I never grew up playing hockey, so I
Right.
don't really know much about it. So the only thing I can do is study and get better.
Mm-hmm.
That got my wheels spinning. I was working at Martin's, and I was like, oh, I just need a break. I need to do something different.
Okay.
So decided to go to school
Okay.
for sport management,
Mhm.
which is at Humber College. So I did 3 years there, and in those 3 years, I taught a lot about leadership,
Okay.
sports psychology, from the coaching aspect to the manager aspect to like running a business or something like that. So it's a very wide
Okay,
variety.
yep.
But there was a lot of stuff in there, especially about leadership, that I took back. I'm like, oh, this is like I learned a lot. Like,
Mhm.
and you constantly interacting with other people who love sports, and hockey is a common sport in Ontario. So
Yeah.
yeah, interacting with a lot of those people. So like, again, your knowledge base is growing. So I decided, you know what, this is something I want to do, continue to do. So I rounded up a couple of guys and we're like, oh, we should go coach. So we applied. We didn't get the team we wanted, but we got a lower tier elite team and jumped into it. And I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. I was just an assistant coach. I felt like I headed it up, but I just put myself as assistant coach because I have my knowledge base.
Right.
Really enjoyed that. And year 3 came around. I'm like, this is something I want to continue to better, but I need to go to someone that I can learn more from. So I asked around on Myron, this was my cousin's team, and asked if they could use another person on the bench. And he thought about it. He's like, yeah, he could take another non-parent. So he took me, even though I was kind of related to cousin on the team. It was he took me on the team, and I really enjoyed it. He had a lot of standards that he had to set. And so did a year like that, and I learned a lot and continued. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do another year. Like, just continue to learn more about hockey. And then, so I did 2 years of that, and then year 5, I'm like, I think I'm ready to go on my own and become a head coach, and did that for my hockey. So I put in my name. I kind of got asked if I would put my name in, and also did put my name in and for a team, and was given the team, and then rounded up some local refereeing friends. And we put together a coaching staff.
Nice. Yeah.
And that was year 5, so that was last year.
Last year, okay.
It's been a long road, but I continue wanting to jump into it more and get better and better.
That's awesome. Yeah. So who was it that made the decision to accept you or hire you as the coach? Is that parents that make that decision, or? So
in each center there's a leadership team for the minor hockey. And so they would choose who the coaches are for the following year.
Oh, okay.
The big thing is they try to get non-parent coaches.
Oh, that's the goal.
That's the goal, but at the same time they want to make sure the non-parent coaches are the right choice. Like, there's a lot of pressures that come with it. But that's a goal, to get non-parent coaches, and having a background of coaching for a while with people and refereeing and being involved. They knew who I was and my name. There's no way they would have known my name 6 years ago. But being involved for the last 5 years in some kind of capacity, they knew who I was, and they were willing to offer it up or take me on too.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it was an interview process. And they pretty much ask you what your expectations, how you interact with different situations, and then they get back to you, yes or no. Okay,
very good. And so currently, is that team not running, or why do you not have a job with it right now?
So the team I had last year, there was a few things that didn't go quite smoothly, so I wasn't going to take that team again.
Oh, okay.
Got offered another team. I think with the big thing with being a head coach, you need a good support system. The support system I had last year, but there's a bunch of people's lives were changing. Don't blame them, and so they weren't ready to be committed. I put my name in for another team. I didn't get that team, but then they offered me another team. And with COVID going on and being busy at work, I just decided, you know what, it's better just to take a year off. So I took a year off, even though I had an opportunity to coach again. It just didn't feel right at the time.
That makes sense, because I was thinking, like you were saying, that there are practices going on and things like that. So I was just wondering how that fit with you not coaching this time, but hoping to get back into it next.
Oh yeah, for sure. If the right opportunity comes in, for sure, jump back into it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I like what you've brought out about the ways that you've developed. Like, you didn't have any experience playing minor hockey, and really until you were 18 that you started reffing and getting into that. Is that correct?
Yeah, 18 and 19. I don't know exactly the date. I was definitely, being a first year official, I was definitely one of the older people jumping into it.
Yeah.
So, but it just shows no matter what you can do, you can learn a lot if you just put in the time, and no matter what age you are, for sure.
Yeah, and go into a situation being willing to learn and willing to grow, and you don't need to be the top dog and the right away if you go with that mentality. It's great how sticking with it can take you places. So that's amazing. And yeah, just what you brought out with the schooling, the learning that you did there, and do you see that being a big benefit to you still in some of the roles that you have with coaching and things like that?
Yeah, schooling definitely brought out a unique aspect of me that I didn't expect.
Okay.
I'd say by that is give me confidence for situations. You have this piece of paper essentially that backs you up that you completed this. Like,
Yeah.
you are knowledgeable in some aspects of things. So, like basic things like leadership, how to handle situations. That whole 3 years was school was really focused on leadership. Like,
Okay.
leading is in such an important role in so many different ways. Like, you can lead by not saying much. You can lead by being the lead, like doing the things, calling the shots. But also being a strong leader is empowering people around you, right?
Yeah.
And so having that was a huge aspect of coming into it and gave me a lot more confidence. And I think I used that in different ways. Another sports psychology, like what goes on in hockey, kids' minds, whatever, how to prepare for games. So I think the other thing is what's important, like what do they want to get out of playing hockey?
Yeah.
Like,
What's their goal?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I think the dream would be to play in NHL, but the realistically is like there's only a very small chance you play in this. So what can you get out of it?
Yeah. No, it's great, and a great way to think about it there. I'm curious, if you for whatever situation you could only pick one of coaching or reffing, which one would you choose at this point?
Probably coaching.
Okay.
I don't like conflict as a person.
Okay.
And there's a lot of conflict in being a referee.
Yeah.
Conflict with parents, conflict with coaches, conflict with players. Being a coach, it's more how to empower people, how to get the best of each individual.
Yep.
There's definitely conflict in coaching too, but just in different regards. I also feel like I'm a better coach than a referee.
Okay.
But there's lots of improvement. And I think coaching is something that is easier to get better at. I think it's harder to get better as a referee, where it's hard to teach game management. It's hard to, but as a coach, and you can actually study and research and how to handle these situations better compared to refereeing. Yeah,
very good. No, interesting. And yeah, I'm looking forward to digging in a little bit, maybe to some of the specifics of what you've learned and some of the things that you try to implement in each of these. I don't know why, but I've always been fascinated with officiating in any type of sport. So I really enjoy if I'm watching a game, professional or otherwise. I enjoy watching what the officials are doing and what their roles are and some of the different skills that they have. As a teacher, I would at Countryside we did tournaments, and I always enjoyed reffing the different sports or officiating those, and so I've always enjoyed that. So I have a bunch of questions just that I'm curious of from what your experience, how you deal with different situations and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about them. So maybe the first thing is what are some of the key skills that you would pick out that are important for a hockey official to have?
I think first and foremost is communication. You need to be able to communicate with your fellow official.
Okay. Yep.
You need to be communicated with the players, and you need to be communicated with the coaches. When I was coaching, it's easy to pick out which are the good referees and which are the bad referees. Yeah. How to do that is the good referees are always talking out there.
Okay.
They always have something to say to the coaches. They always have something to say to players. Always talking. So communication is so key in everything you do. Like, people the coaches respect you if you have that relationship. You're talking, especially at the minor hockey level. It changes when you go up the ranks, but especially at the minor hockey level, if you're constantly communicating, you let them know what you feel, what you see in that situation, there's going to be that much more respect given.
So are you talking about here, like between play? So at a stoppage of play, you'll go to the bench and explain something?
No, just like, no, you wouldn't have to say go to the bench. It would be more like, I would be more talking to players, like, what play's going on, like, watch your stick, or...
Okay. So you're like chatting during a play?
Chatting during the play. That's where the most communication's happening. You rarely ever go to the bench just because it slows down the hockey game, and usually that's when confrontation happens. But if you engage and you look like you want to be out there, that goes a long way.
Oh, I see. So they can tell, like, they'll have more respect for you.
They have more respect for you. Like, if you look like, you know what, you look like you want to be out there, that means you're confident in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing someone that's confident in what they're doing gives you a lot of, as a coach too, it gives them a lot of the perspective that they're good.
Yeah.
It's
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So I think number one is communication. Number two is probably confidence. If you're confident out there, then game management's gonna be easy. I have one friend who started off who wasn't a really good skater, and like one thing he was really good at was communicating, and it was very obvious that he was. Number two, it was like he was really confident out there, and it's shown. Like, he's jumped from the minor hockey to the junior ranks, and now he did the OHL last year, and then before COVID hit, he had an opportunity to ref in the AHL. And it's just, he never grew up playing hockey other than house league. He was a terrible skater, but he's got to one of the highest levels just because he's constantly talking out there, and he looks confident out there, and people respect him for that.
So has he become a good skater too?
Oh, he's put in so much effort. When he realized that he was good, he put in so much effort to become a good skater. So that definitely is an aspect of it. But
he got there because of his.
It wasn't. He didn't get there because of his minor hockey experience or because he was a good skater. He got there because his communicating, and he was confident out there. So.
Yeah, that's great. I remember, I don't know how long ago it was now. It was probably like 5 years ago. The NHL came out with these fairly short videos during the playoffs of refs that were mic'd up, and they would put them on YouTube. I remember coming across them, and I had never thought about how important that was until I watched those videos and just observed how much they're talking, and kind of giving players an idea of what they're looking for, and if they're getting close to the edge of like getting a penalty. Is that something you do?
For sure. Yeah. So like probably the best official, the most respected official in the NHL is Wes McCauley.
Oh yeah, he's got some
funny clips and whatever. But there's a reason why that is. It's because he has been communicating, and he has that bond with the players that they respect him. Like, there's a reason he has funny clips is because he probably is one of the most talkative guys out there. Yeah. And he's done the Stanley Cup Finals the last 4 years in a row.
Really? Wow.
So
that means he's one of the best.
One of the best, for sure.
Yeah. That's great. How do you communicate with your team, your fellow officials, as an official? Are you having conversations, or is there hand signals you use or something like that? Or
so there's not a lot during play. There's not a lot going on communicating. Okay. You can do eye contact is big.
Okay.
So if there's a two-man official, eye contact of where you need to be, like come to cover my blue line. I'm going down. Icing. When there's an icing call, the back official puts his hand up, and the other one official skates to the end of the ice, making eye contact, and they're blowing dead. So eye contact is the big thing you can do in play.
Okay.
It makes everyone, the flow of the game better. The coach, everyone sees more consistency if there's communication happening on eye contact. I think the other big one is just like during intermissions periods. Just standing at center ice, just going over what happened, what did you see there, stuff like that. So there's not a lot of you can do during play, but I think the other thing is like relationships. Like, I think what Amaya does well is like it's a really tight knit community, and everyone gets along with each other, and so.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
So when we do games with each other, it's easy because we all have this relationship with each other and know what to expect from each other. So during play, not much, but like I said, like just being engaged goes a long way.
Yeah. And those conversations about just having that communication again of does that keep you on the same page? Is that
Same
kind of the
page.
goal?
Yeah. Ideally, you would always like to be having, when you see a penalty, both hands be going up, but that's not
Yeah.
always the situation. And so oftentimes it's like sometimes you don't always agree with that penalty call, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like you're gonna have to act like you agree
Okay.
to like show that you're on the same team. And sometimes the player will come to one official and then go to the next trying to see if there's a rift or. But if
Oh,
you
I
always
see.
act
Yeah.
like you're on the same page, then they're like, oh, maybe it was a good call.
Okay.
So
So you'll back up your fellow official
I will
even
never
if
stab in my
Yeah.
back official in the back because they're my teammate
yeah.
on the ice. But there is times when it has happened where you do feel stabbed in the back sometimes.
Oh,
but
really? Okay. Yeah.
that's-
Will you ever say like to the player, or if a player would ask you like, oh no, I support that, and then between periods or something, you're like, did you really think that was the
Oh,
right call?
100%. Yeah, like you'd always question like, oh, you wouldn't say was that penalty? You'd be like, oh, what did you see in that play that
Oh,
made that
yeah,
you think
yeah.
that penalty? So
Yeah.
you always ask in a roundabout way to see what their perspective of it is.
Will you ask your fellow official ever like, what did you think of that call? Like, did you like the call I made
I
there?
think that's the good thing. Like when you're getting chirped by the players and coaches about a penalty call, that's starting to second guess yourself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe going over during the period and asking what you thought about that, maybe you'll regain your confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, you know what, that was a good call. I'm glad you made that call. The other thing that goes a long way for me is when I'm doing a 3-man official and I'm the referee and I have
Mm-hmm.
2 linesmen and I have a penalty call and the linesman skates by me and just says, good call, Trent, or like just something like that. Just like a little bit of words of encouragement goes a long way too.
And that's even when it's someone from your like on your team that's probably going to support most things you do. That does mean a lot, doesn't it? When
When
they're
like,
willing to say something.
There's some linesmen that will never say anything out there.
Okay,
And
yeah.
you never know what they're exactly thinking. But
Yeah.
you know if a guy could be BSing you a little bit, but he's like, good call. Like, you know what I'm going to think it's a good call then too.
Yeah. And do you know that if there's someone that will tell you when it's a good call, if they just skate by and don't say anything, do you know that maybe you messed that one up? Or?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like when they ask that question of what did you see in that play, like they're like, oh, you probably messed that one up.
Yeah. I was I didn't put this one down on the list I sent to you, but I was wondering, how do you stay out of your own head? Or how do you, as an official, not get, well, I guess confidence is a part of it, but how do you not get so nervous about making the right call that you actually do a worse job?
So after every game, I have a pretty good idea if I was at a good game or a bad game. Oftentimes when I call the most penalties, I know I had a good game.
Oh, so more penalties means good game?
For myself.
Oh, because you know you're.
I tend not to call penalties because
okay.
like I don't want to tick anyone off. Like
Yeah.
I have that.
You don't
mind.
like conflict.
Yeah,
right?
I
You
don't
said
like
that,
conflict.
Yeah.
So when I call penalties, like I know it's a good. For myself, it's a good game.
That's great.
How do
yeah.
you not get in your head? I don't. There's always that confidence. You always are fighting yourself. It's hard not to get in your head when, people are constantly chirping you and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like that.
believe it.
But at the same time, I think with the more years of experience, you get better how to manage situations and you know what to expect. And from like a small story here, like it's probably my second year ref, and it was a play against the boards, and it was 8-year-old kid, and by letter of law, if there's an injury on a play, you have to call a 5-minute major, right?
Okay.
Well, 8-year-old kids is not they go down pretty softly compared to a 16-year-old kid, right? Like, so a guy hit into the boards and guy was down, so I had my hand go up and I hit him for a 2-minute minor body check. Well, he stayed down on a play, and so it turned into a 5-minute major.
Okay,
And so,
like you changed it.
and before I put it on the clock. Anyways, the game was over. I don't remember the outcome of the game. Went to the dressing room. Mind, this is my second year of.
Right.
And the parent came to the dressing room, knocks on the door. Well, didn't know better. I should never have opened the door.
Okay.
Because there was a little bit of conflict. And parent comes out and asks me why you call it. It wasn't even his kid that got kicked out of the game.
Oh, this was so the kid had to leave the game
Yeah.
because of this.
Yeah,
Okay,
because of a
gotcha.
5-minute major
Yeah.
game suspension. And so the parent came to the door, and he was just crushing me. Well, I should never have engaged in that conflict, but like that was just a small example of like. And then for that rest of the year, I was scared to make any penalty calls because this parent came and pretty much took a strip off me.
Yeah. So what would you, as a more experienced
official, would just be walk away, don't engage.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
call what you call and
you can't
don't
do
worry
anything about it now anymore,
No,
right?
exactly. There's nothing you can do to make it better. Maybe you messed up. At the end of the day, it's not gonna. No one's gonna. They may miss 2 or 3 games, but at the end of the day, they're gonna play hockey again.
Yeah.
It's not that serious.
Yeah. What do you think a parent's goal is with coming and talking to you? Is it just like, do they have to kind of get something off their chest? Are they trying to influence you for the next game, or what's their mindset?
I think most often it's just a thing of belittling.
Oh, okay.
They want, in the back of their minds, they're like, oh, this will make them a better official. But at the end of the day, they're like, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Parents are very crazy, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, they have this mindset that their player on the team is going to go to the NHL, or they're going to make a career of this. So, like, everything's hit or miss, right? Like,
so I'd feel like a penalty against their team or their child feels like you're limiting their chances of making of being successful.
Oh, it's not fair to the teammates because they were down for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Just in that game.
But at the same time, it wasn't fair to the other team because the player got hurt. So no matter what, you're never going to win.
Yeah.
And if you, like, another story, like, I was ref, and this is only a couple years ago, when I was more confident, right? Mm-hmm. And I learned that I don't take any chirping from the coaches. Like, if they want to bash me, I'm going to give them a 2-minute minor.
Okay, so you'll give them a penalty for...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I should do it more often.
Yep.
Because it's ridiculous what they get away with. So I gave him a 2-minute minor, and it continued happening.
Does the coach go to the box?
Oh, the player from the box goes to... player from the bench goes to the box. But it's a 2-minute minor. But it continued happening throughout the game. It was a playoff.
The coach kept
chirping. Yep. So I told him to leave the game.
Oh, really?
So he left the game. No penalty goes on the board. And he complained to minor hockey about me as an official. Yep. And what happened was minor hockey had my back.
Nice. And
because I was also a current coach at the time. But they had my back and supported me through that. And then take it last year, it was like, I don't know what has it. Maybe it's a personal thing against him. I've never interacted with him again. But it was his kids' team again, and he was standing in the corner and banging the glass, and I might have missed a penalty. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was just being very obnoxious. So I turned around and gave him the hush with my finger to my mouth, and told him, like, enough. Like, I don't want to hear from it. 10 minutes later, he's back at it. So I told him just to leave the building.
Well, okay.
And so he left the building, and he never left the building. He just stood behind a post and watched the game. I knew he was there, but the whole time, I'm like...
But he wasn't on the bench anymore?
No, he wasn't. It was a show. It was a parent. It wasn't even a coach no more.
Now I'm with you. Okay. Yeah.
And so he wasn't... just being a nuisance. And I don't know if it was like a personal attack on me, but I don't know if it made him feel better. But at the same time, like, I think that's why we can't get any more officials in, because there's so much critiquing happening from parents to coaches that no kids want to go through that. No kids want to say that they did a crappy job or...
Yeah. And when you were saying there, when I was asking you about what a parent's goal is in going after a referee, like what happened to you in your second year there, it's interesting that earlier you said that one of the most important skills in a referee is confidence. And what are you... Right. Well, I mean, whenever you critique someone, that's going to hurt their confidence, even if you're doing it in a helpful way or a way that's going to build them up in the end. But yeah, just a situation like that, or the constant part of it, is just going to lower your confidence, isn't it? And that, like you said, it goes against what a game official needs as one of their most important skills.
Exactly.
Is confidence. Exactly. Yeah. So, interesting point there. Anything else you wanted to say about that on how you stay out of your own head?
No, I mean, just having a support system, like those evaluations you get from supervisors, they're really beneficial. Knowing that you're doing a good job, knowing that you have a good team behind you.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you put in the effort, I think you can, at the end of the day, you can be successful.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say in a hockey game is, what are some of the hardest calls to get correct? So, I mean, we hear all the time that hockey is such a fast game. So, is that part of it, or what's hard about it?
Hard about it is being consistent.
Okay. Yep.
I think it's, if you set a line about how to be consistent throughout the game, you need to stay consistent to that line. And there's a lot of changing things. Like the playoff game is going to be more intense than a regular season game. Are you going to call the same amount of penalties in that regular season game than you would do in a playoff game?
Yeah.
Or is it going to, in the last 2 minutes, do you let everything go because it's the last 2 minutes and you don't want to affect the outcome? Or so being consistent from the start of the horn to the end of the horn is probably the toughest. But then just body checking, like what becomes a checking from behind, or stuff like that. So at the end of the day, it by the letter of the law rule book, it's pretty black and white, like is what it is. But in the situation, you have to make a decision within a split second.
Yeah.
And you have to know exactly what decision you are making in that split second. So it's all reactionary, and being consistent and then having to react to any moment is probably the toughest part.
Yeah. Do you find like you said that it's supposed to be black and white, but do you find that some of the calls are more a judgment call than others? So for instance, do you find it harder to call penalties than to call like the line rules, like offside and icing and that kind of thing, or are those tough too?
I think those are easier calls to make because there's less of a gray area, right?
Yeah.
I think a big thing now, the higher level hockey is sometimes easier to ref because it's more of an anticipation. Because
okay.
you know they're
Higher skilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can anticipate what's going on, but the low level hockeys, it's more like one and gun. You don't know exactly what's going. Did they intentionally do that, or they did not intentionally do that? Well, at the higher level hockey, you can pretty know if it was intentional or unintentional, and that sometimes is a determining factor too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that part. That the higher skill kind of, because they can control themselves better. You can have a better idea of if they did that on purpose, or if they were trying to get away with something, or if it just happened, like it more skaters or those that can't control their sticks as well.
Exactly, the stick thing is big, or the body check thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looks like we've covered some of the things here, so maybe pick out a few things yet. But did you have any more to say on how you relate to the players and the coaches as a referee? Like, how do you try to have a good relationship, or do you just kind of see it as, this is my job and I'm going to do it and do my best with it? Or
I'm a very, I think it'd be different for each official, but I'm very much, like I said, I hate conflict, and I want to be on everyone's good terms, which doesn't always work as a referee.
Right.
But shaking hands at the beginning of the game, knowing the head coach's name is a key thing. Like, you can go over and say, "Hey, Greg, this is what I saw in this," and they know him right away. Like, you know what, that right away you have that personal relationship because you know his name, right?
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. I think at the end of the day, it's like you need to be, like I've said many times, just confident in your skin, and knowing that, you know what, we're here to do. At the end of the day, the referee's job is to keep everyone safe. So if everyone's safe at the end of the day, then essentially you're successful.
Yeah. No, it's a good way to think about it there. Do you try to get to know players' names, or not necessarily?
I think, especially with just reffing within the Amaya, right? You kind of know each team's players' names growing up, right? Because you do the teams over and over again.
Oh, I see.
So you start to have kind of a relationship like that. You don't know the visiting teams as much.
Right. But
that's why, for playoff games, they try to get out-of-town officials because everyone's on a level playing field, right? But, some of these kids have been growing up playing minor hockey as I've been growing up refereeing.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to know them, and I do the higher level hockey, and they get better at playing hockey, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of grow together, or whatever. So
Yeah, that's neat. What do you like about your job as an official?
this is pretty easy. It's like just the atmosphere with the other referees. Like I don't really enjoy going out and refereeing a hockey game if it's with someone I don't really know. Like I just absolutely love it with a good crew, which is a linesman, two linesmen, and another referee. Like it just makes it so much fun when you can go out there and get along, and then go back in the dressing room and talk about the game and talk about what happened, and everyone's just there for fun, and it makes it much more enjoyable than that. So I don't know if I would necessarily keep doing it just to level referee hockey if it wouldn't be for a good group of friends that I've made through it.
Okay.
So
yeah. So is a lot of what you'll talk about, you kind of mentioned this, but is it focused on how you did as a team in the game and that kind of thing?
And then even then just shooting the breeze about what's going on in life, and like it just
so you become good friends outside of the job too.
Right? Hanging outside of the referee room and doing stuff outside, and it goes a long way. And some of those referee friends helped me coach for a few years, and so that just goes a long way for that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What do you not like about the job?
No conflict. I hate when you're walking off and hearing that a team lost, and the parents is like, you lost the game, you suck, you should go home, like you should be embarrassed, and like that's no fun for anyone. Like I don't want to go out there and referee your team again if that's what I'm going to hear. Like I'm honestly going out there and doing it the best of my ability. I'm trying to give my full effort, and I might not be good, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And there's a reason I'm not doing higher levels hockey is because I'm not that good. Like,
right.
At the end of the day, there's going to be a team wins and team loses. At the end of the day, there's going to be penalties called. Like, you'll never win. Like, if you don't call penalties, they're like, why do you call penalties? If you call too many penalties, you're going to call, why do you call so many penalties? Like, it's impossible to win. So
yeah. And do you think like there's ways that players and coaches and parents could be helped to see things from that perspective? Like, is there any education done or anything to teach everyone that's involved how to better interact with officials and that kind of thing?
There's like the parents have to do this click before each season. I think they have to click through this modular thing about how to interact with people and stuff like that. One of the best stories was this coach who was highly critical of the referees. Okay. He became an official just as something different to do. Yep. And his mindset changed the world. Like,
I believe it. Yeah.
He realized how tough it was. Like, yeah. And realized, like, I feel like he was not nearly as critical as the referees as he had been in the past because. Yeah. And just you talking here about things from your perspective, what your goals are, what the reason that you're on the ice. Number one goal is to keep everyone safe. Number two is try to be as fair as possible and maintain the rules of the game, or however you would describe that. I think that if everyone would realize that that's your perspective and not try to judge you for trying to pick on your team or something like that, like, yeah, I think that would help. As a coach, I've seen, like, you see the different perspective too, and I think the biggest pet peeve is if someone's not putting the effort in. If they don't put the effort in, then I know they're doing a bad job, and I think they're opening themselves up to be criticized, right? But if I see a referee that's putting in effort in and he's still making bad calls, in my opinion, then I'll be okay with that. But so like my biggest thing now as a referee is like I'll just put my 100% effort into it. Me leave no doubt in my mind that I went out there and tried to do my best of my ability. Yeah. That way, everyone attempt to be happy no matter the outcome. Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to look at it, and in most things to say, hey, I'm going to give this my best shot, and not going to be and not trying to hold yourself to perfection either, because you're not going to be. And it just goes back to, like, you had the highest, like, my friend who got offered a contract in AHL. He ref a minor hockey game this previous year, and he just got picked apart.
Okay.
And honestly, he probably did a really good job, but even the highest level of officials still get picked apart over the smaller stuff. So you'll never win, no matter if you're the best official out there. You're still gonna be criticized for something.
Yeah. Do you struggle with a bias? I mean, so as humans, we're all going to have preconceived ideas and things like that, but do you have to fight against going into a game with a certain player that you've ref before, like you talked about coaches and that kind of thing? Do you have to kind of try to tell yourself not to be affected by preconceived ideas that you have of certain players or teams or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think for sure, like, there's definitely that element to it. The players often don't change my opinion. It's more the coaching staff that changes my opinion. But I would always like to see the people I know win. Mm-hmm. I think in a game, if someone is being really critical of myself, then I would tend to like start calling more penalties.
Okay. Yeah.
Or that's the actual opposite. If he's like starting to be really critical on the edge, then maybe I'll try to stop calling penalties on him team and try to call penalties on the other team, which is a terrible approach, because at the end of the day, you just want to call the game as you see it, no matter how angry someone gets. But like I said, having a struggle for conflict is a terrible element to be official, but considering how much conflict that happens. But I still want to do my best of my ability no matter what happens. But there's always going to be that perceived idea of who you want to win or whatever. But I try to eliminate it as best of ability. Yeah, that's for sure. At the end of the day, I'm not the one, like, the game is won by how many goals go in the net. Yeah. And I can't control that. So not to the fullest extent. Do you, I was also thinking along the lines of, are there certain teams that kind of have the perception of they'll get more penalties, like they'll commit more infractions and things like that? Like, is there that perception that goes with teams? Or for sure. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, there was this team that was just really bad for taking penalties, and they took a lot of penalties. But at the same time, they knew they took a lot of penalties. Okay. And they took a lot of penalties when they went to see other visiting teams in other cities. So, like, they knew that they were a high penalized team. So if you're doing that perceived idea, like, it's not wrong that they usually have these perceived ideas really come from a good spot about where they. Okay, yeah. So it usually fits along with that. Yeah. Thinking about your coaching, so you've talked about how you're a coach, and are you reffing in the same area that you're coaching? Yeah, so reffing in the same area, just would never do the same age group. Okay, so you won't ref teams that you're playing against. Is that how that works? I would ref any level of hockey, but I could only coach the one level of hockey, and there's usually only one team of that level of hockey in the center. Right. Okay. So you never ref your own team. Yeah, no, that makes sense. What would you say your experience with refereeing has helped you in your coaching, like having that experience? Oh yeah, it gave me a lot of knowledge base about how the game should be run and stuff like that, and I guess confidence about what is a good call and what is a bad call. Right. I think it's probably a negative too, because like I know when it's a bad call because of my refereeing experience, and so I'm extra critical of that. Or I think the one thing I'm really good at is like asking questions in a roundabout way to make the official look really bad. Okay. So like, if it's an offside, like questioning him where the puck should be dropped because of his own entry, and knowing that I'm right, and knowing that the official knows I'm right and he won't give it to me or anything like that. That's good. One thing I got really good at was at home is having a huge impact on the officials in the home area, because they knew who we were on the bench. We had 3 officials, high-level officials on the bench, and we were doing lower-level hockey, so we could usually help us a little bit by getting the referees to call penalties and stuff. So it was a negative thing a little bit, but it was always a positive for the team. Did you feel a little guilty? No, absolutely not. No, okay. Because you can't control, you can only influence a little bit. So you try to influence as much as you can, but at the end of the day, it's still their decision.
Gotcha. Okay. So you don't feel bad about doing that as a using your experience for that situation. Yeah. Did you have any other stories from your reffing experience that you wanted to share that you didn't get a chance to?
No, I think in the roundabout, I've never really had those crazy stories with death threats or anything like
Okay.
that, but definitely heard them, seen them from other officials have talked about them. But um, at the end of the day, it's my challenge if I become a parent, I would be less critical of officials or coaches out there, because at the end of the day, everyone wants us to play safe and have fun, and
Mhm.
if that happens, then there's issues sex. Because
Yeah.
you don't ever remember what tournaments you win and tournaments you lose, or what games you lose. In the grand schemes of things, it's a very small portion of life, but in the
Right.
moment, it
I
seems like
know.
it's a huge moment.
Very true. Yeah. Have you ever had to break up any fights?
So, like in minor hockey, they essentially took away fighting, because
Like it's
it's
so bad a penalty that no one does
yeah,
it? Or-
exactly. So it's a huge suspension, whatever.
Yeah.
It still happens, especially in the higher U21. There'd be occasionally thing, but it's never like those linesmen breaking up an NHL fight like you see,
Okay.
anything like that. But there's scrimmages that happen, stuff like that. But if you go in there, use your voice, talk loud, um, you can pretty much scale the little kids a little bit. So
Okay. So if they're starting to like shove or something
yeah,
after a whistle, yeah.
but I've never had like a huge lineup brawl that I can't. Everyone's going at it and can't control it. It's just,
Okay.
it's very rare anymore.
And that, yeah, you said that's rare, yeah. I see. Do you think that it will ever be fighting will ever be banned to a higher level in the NHL? Meaning that more than just a 5-minute penalty for fighting?
Yeah, because look how many sports allow fighting. Football doesn't allow fighting. Like
It's just hockey.
it's just
isn't it?
hockey, and
Yeah.
that seems absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, for sure. Like this should never be. It should never just be a penalty just for fighting. Like if you're fighting, you should have a major suspension.
Okay. So
And most often it does happen if it's serious enough. But
they'll get a little
Yeah.
extra, yeah. So you're not a proponent of continuing to keep fighting in the NHL?
people like it because it's good entertainment, right?
Okay. So is that what keeps it in?
For sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's not doesn't happen as often as it is, especially in the junior ranks. I forget what it is now, but if they have free fights, I think it's a 1-game suspension.
Okay.
And it used to be, you go to an OHL game, you're just guaranteed
You
to
get
see
a fight, yeah.
every game. But now you probably rarely ever see one.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Very good. You were been talking a little bit about your coaching, and you mentioned thinking about things from the perspective of a player. What's their goals? So yeah, what are the main goals that a minor hockey coaching staff sets out to accomplish throughout a season of hockey?
So last year, did my planning meetings and my stress to the players that my fellow coaches that I want to be good influences on these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have these 12-year-olds that have the whole life in front of them, and you're with them 3 to 4 times a week. Like it's a powerful influence.
For sure, yeah.
Teach them small life skills. So I think hockey is so beneficial, or playing any minor sports is so beneficial because it teaches so many small skills that's going to help you in life. Like from teamwork and working together with a team.
Yep.
Is going to be a factor when you go to your workplace and work with coworkers. Like
Right.
You need to do that well. You need to learn how to handle adversity well. Like no matter what comes in life, how are you going to respond to a situation? If you're losing in a game, how do you respond? So my goal for that this year for the kids was make them better individuals off the ice first.
Nice.
And then second of all was make them better individuals on the ice. So we took a practice at the beginning of the year and compared it at the end of practice, and we kind of did the similar drills. And at the beginning of the year, it was just awful to watch. Like, couldn't make passes, whatever. At the end of the year, it was more consistent, more fluid. And it was just like, it was good to see like that grow. And third of the year, you want to win. Like, you do coach to win. Like, what comes of it? Nothing really. I think at the higher level of hockey, it should be less. At the lower lower level hockey, it's to be more about development on the ice skills and development off, both development on and off ice skills more than winning. At the high level hockey, you could argue, especially in the junior, like it's okay to push to win. You should push to win. But I think the wrong perception is like winning is first and foremost, and that should be go away. Rather, like how are we going to develop these people to be better people on and off the ice?
Oh, that's awesome, and I think that's great. That's the main goal is trying to turn these kids into better people, and is as a main goal. This is a very specific question, but do you do things like give fair ice time to everyone, or will you put your best players out there in a close situation close to the end of the game?
So by Woolwich, I coached with Woolwich last year, and the doctrine says that you equal ice time until the last 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So there's actually specific rules with it. Yeah.
But those rules can be, you can change those rules, or you can go around those rules if there's like benching of players, so punishment.
Oh, okay.
So, but I tend not to do. I'd never punished a player for on ice actions.
For like playing poorly.
Yeah. It was always because of something off ice would happen. So I had a situation last year that I took a lot of heat for. We had a lot of dominant characteristics in the dressing room, 3 to be exact, and
in your players.
In players, and so it was a very dominant characteristics in the dressing room, and so what tended to happen was a lot of bullying started to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had a crackdown at the beginning of the year that there was absolutely no bullying. And so when an incident happened that led to lost ice time, he sat for the first couple of minutes.
Okay.
And it happened a couple of times to individuals, and I was very consistent with it throughout the year. But then they, like, parents thought, oh, you mistreating my kid because... So you never win because you're trying to look out for the best of the individual. But punishment is always hard, no matter for the kids, especially hard for the parents.
Interesting, yeah.
So, for the most part, we did a very good job at equal ice time. But when it came to, like, power plays or PK situations in the big games, we would put the guys more likely to score goals on the ice to try to win. But always had some kind of conflict to go with that, too.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think that's it's kind of an interesting balance to between trying to win and trying to develop players, and how do you balance that exactly in some of those situations? I was just curious how you think about that. What are some of the things that you've learned from your experience with coaching about the game of hockey? So you didn't play at all growing up, as far as organized or anything like that. So what are some of the things that you've kind of learned or developed from your coaching experience?
It's a lot of time and energy goes into it. Like, as a coach, there's a lot of stuff you need to do, practice prep, where you have to come up with practice plan. So you have to practice this 2 week, and how you're going to spend 8 minutes doing this drill and then 8 minutes doing this drill. You're going to have to make sure the pucks are in the right corner. Make sure that the coaches know exactly what they're doing. Make sure the players understand how this drill is supposed to work.
Right.
And make sure it's executed properly. So I didn't realize as a head coach, like, how much time needs to go into to make a good practice
before you ever get to the rink. Yeah.
And it was very obvious the ones that had bad practices was when I didn't put enough energy into my practice plan.
That sounds a lot like teaching.
And it's very similar to why there's a lot of teachers or coaches instead.
Yeah.
So I did not expect that to happen. So that was definitely a unique thing. Definitely learning how to handle plays differently. Like, I never knew, like, if you look at an NHL game, there's a player coming off every face-off. Like, it's a design play. So if the puck goes
the way the player's moving?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So if the puck, depending on what team wins, the players are going to go to this spot. If they win that face-off, they're going to go to that spot, etc. like that.
Okay.
So there's so many plays within. It looks
within
like
the game,
it looks like it's just a scramble thing to, like, the first-time watcher, but there's so much actually design plays going on, and so, like, how to set up plays for kids to do and stuff like that. It's just it took a lot more time and energy planning, and then took a lot more time and energy dealing with conflict and parents and coaches and players interactions and stuff like that.
Is that something that really came about when you got a head coaching? Like,
Yeah,
you
for
wouldn't have
sure.
run
I
into
wouldn't have
that?
felt like I wouldn't have had that pressures, but like when you have the head coaching job, you have to answer to every decision you make, and
Yeah.
you need to know why you chose that decision too.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you have learned a lot of those plays and good drills to do and things like that from your assistant?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So like on my 2 years before I became a head coach, I had a really good coach that was really detail oriented in practice plans, and he put a lot of time and energy into making them, and that went such a long way in making sure that I'd did the same.
Yeah.
And it was so, like I said, it was so obvious when you're not prepped enough. Like if you're not prepped enough, it's gonna be a complete gone show.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like try to schedule it down to the minute for a practice, like what you're doing and for how long and
So
things like
roughly,
that?
yeah. So every practice, like each drill, I had 8, 10, 5 minutes, and then I always left a couple minutes in drill. It was always fluctuate depending how the drill goes, because sometimes it never goes as smoothly as you like.
And then it takes twice as long to explain a
Yeah,
new drill as
exactly.
you were planning on it. Yeah.
Or you have to stop and re-explain it because you didn't do it very well.
Yeah.
And one of my weaknesses probably is communication and explaining drills to the players, and so like I had to be even more diligent to explain to make sure they knew what was going on. So I'd always get them to ask questions about where they need to go, and always try to revisit drills.
Oh yeah.
Before they
Get that continuity there.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's great. Anything else you wanted to say on your coaching experience and what you've learned there?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest regrets this last year was relationships is key with everyone, players, coaches, and especially parents. So at the beginning of the year, there was a parent campfire, and I had a staggering door to go to, and I chose the staggering door to go to over the parent campfire. And all my other coaches had other things going on, so none of the coaching staff showed up to the parent campfire. And for the first 2.5 months, sorry, it was a little rocky, like because the parents didn't know who we were. Like we just went a bunch of young guys in charge of the kids, and that's a lot of trust level to put in. It is, yeah, because these kids are the babies of these parents, and so if the parents don't know who you are, then they're gonna be skeptical of you. And so it was a rocky. There's a lot of up and down. Had a couple of tough games, tough losing streaks, 7-game losing streak or something like that. And this team had never lost like that before.
Okay,
like, they've always been really, really good. Went down to New York, Lake Placid, New York, for a tournament.
Okay, and
it's 4-day tournament, whatever, and went down there and really started interacting with the parents. A lot. Spent a lot of time with the parents. Just playing card games, going out to dinner with them, eating dinner with them, just getting to know who they are, and they got to know who we were. And that changed after that weekend. We won the tournament. Oh, nice. Played against a couple of tough teams, but we won the tournament, so I drove home happy, 7 hours. But after that, we went on quite a roll of like winning games. And I don't know why it happened. Maybe it was kind of ironic, but we had that communication. We had that trust from the parents that we hadn't had before, and that changed everything. So I think the kids were more engaged, and then the parents were more engaged to take the kids to hockey because they knew who the guys they had in charge of the kids.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah.
So next going forward, if we ever continue to do that, so have the opportunity to do this, I'm just gonna even spend more extra energy getting to know the people around me. And then you have that personal relationship. So when that conflict does happen, you do see both sides, and you can work to a agreement to make something work.
Yeah, that's great. And you'll prioritize a parent campfire next time around?
Yeah, the second was probably not a very good priority to go to over the campfire. I regretted that at the end of the season.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that's great though that you have those opportunities and chances to learn from them. So that's great. What advice do you have for aspiring referees or officials? So that 16-year-old that's thinking about getting into doing refereeing and thinking about making the decision to do that. Any advice that you'd give?
go for it and just be confident. You know, like I think anyone can do it. Like I could barely skate, and I'm not by far not the best official out there, but I can get around out there, and if I can do it, anyone can do it, and that's probably pretty cliche, but I think the idea is it's good for everyone to push the limits, go outside the comfort zone. I feel like it's so easy to like just do what's easy for people, whatever. But if people actually go out and push their comfort zone, like there's gonna be so many more rewards come out of it. For myself, like I've probably my best friends now are people I've met through hockey and that personal relationships, and that goes such a long way in life, and it's gonna be beneficial down many years down the road. And I would never had the opportunity to if I wouldn't have like just took out and made that step, right?
Yeah.
I'm more confident with my communication skills. Like I would always be lacking like that, but just taking that step and going out and do it. So I feel like sometimes you never really know what the opportunity is in front of you until you actually start the journey, right? If you could do it, go for it. So, I mean, if there's anything like he's thinking about doing it, and what's holding you back? It's just because you don't have the ability. That should never be the excuse. If you have the mindset to be driven to do something, go for it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and yeah, thanks for sharing that. What advice do you have for aspiring coaches or those that are starting out or thinking about coaching hockey or other sports?
I think it goes the same way. Just be confident for what your abilities are. Like, you can know everything. You can have all the. You can just study and stuff like that, and that's gonna go a long way.
Right.
But if you don't know how to execute and be confident in what you do or know why you're doing this, it's not gonna be successful. So, like I said before, I think they go hand in hand. It's like never let your mindset that you don't have the ability to hold you back from anything. I don't care what it is. Just like you never know what the opportunity might happen coming down the road.
No, that's great. And yeah, thank you for the things that you shared and sharing your story with me, telling stories. I love hearing stories from your experience and things like that. Is there anything else that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to talk about that you'd like to mention before we wrap it up here?
No, just fun. I always feel a little skeptical talking to people about hockey and refereeing and coaching because I'm like, oh, they probably don't have that much interest into it. So having this platform of just spilling what my interest is and how I enjoy life, it's a lot of fun. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And just before we wrap it up, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your experience, and along with that, being willing to share mistakes that you made, things that you've learned. And I just from the last hour and a bit here where we've been talking, I think that you've said a lot of things that apply to other areas of life besides just being out on the hockey rink and trying to officiate a game or coach kids in the game of hockey. I think that you've said things that apply to many parts of life. So I appreciate what you've shared, and thanks a lot for coming on the podcast and doing that.
No, thanks for all and for having me all. And I don't think I have a lot of expertise, but I have a lot of experiences that can be beneficial for life for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Trent. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, Trent, for sharing your knowledge with us. As I mentioned during the conversation, I always enjoy thinking about and talking about officiating sports, and so I really enjoyed hearing his experiences and stories about reffing. And I thought the goal that he shared, the number one goal that he has for a team when he coaches, is improving his players off the ice. I thought that was really good, and I think that any coach that takes that approach will be a good coach. And so thank you, Trent, for sharing those things with us. I always love to hear from listeners of the show, so if you'd like to reach out and contact me, that would be great. The email address is contact@everydayexpertise.ca, which is a great way to get a hold of me. I'd love to hear how you found out about the Everyday Expertise podcast, so you can tell me how you came across the show or how you heard about it. I'd like to hear feedback from you. I always like to hear things that you like about the show or things that you don't like, so please feel free to share those things with me. I'd also like to hear suggestions. If there's someone that you think should be on the podcast to share their everyday expertise with us, reach out and give those suggestions. Or if you'd like to be on the show, if you'd like to be a guest and share your everyday expertise, please reach out to me and give that suggestion. One of the reasons that I'm doing this podcast is to encourage each one of us to be present with those that are right around us and to try to learn from the expertise of those that we come into contact on a regular basis. So whether it's someone that we just met or someone that we've known for a long time, I think that there's always something more that we can learn from them. And I encourage you to have those conversations with those right around you. So if you have a story that you'd like to share with me about a time that you learned from the everyday expertise of someone, please feel free to share those stories with me. I was thinking maybe sometime in the future I could do a show where I share a number of different stories that were sent to me about how people have learned from the everyday expertise around them. So yeah, please reach out with any of those things and share with me. I'd love to hear from you. That email address again is contact@everydayexpertise.ca. Also on the website, everydayexpertise.ca, there's a nice contact form that's easy to use if you want to reach out that way. Or on social media, you can send the show a message on social media as well, and we'll get it that way too. That's all for now. Join me again next week to learn from the expertise of everyday people.